The wind brushed over the open fields, carrying the scent of hay and dust across the Montana plains as the sun dipped behind the horizon. The land was quiet, almost sacred at this hour. When daylight softened into gold and shadows stretched long, near the split rail fence stood a figure, small against the vastness of the world around, a soul caught between leaving and belonging. A letter trembled in her hand, its words written in a bold, steady hand that didn't waver. Each line was simple, yet it carried the weight of something she'd tried so long to avoid. Meet me by the north pasture at sundown. It's time we stopped pretending. She shouldn't have come. Every instinct told her to walk away, to keep her distance from the men who'd stirred something buried too deep to name. But she was tired of running. Tired of hiding behind the walls she had built to keep the world out. The ranch beyond the fence belonged to him, the one people called the silent rancher, a man known for his quiet strength, for the way his presence filled a room without needing words. There were stories about him, how he'd lost family, how he carried sorrow in his silence, but none of them mattered when he looked at her. The sound of boots crunching on dry grass broke her thoughts. He was walking toward her now, each step sure and unhurried, as though he'd been waiting for this moment all his life. The fading light wrapped around him, glinting off the buckle of his belt, outlining the shape of a man who had weathered storms and still stood tall. He stopped a few paces away, hat low, eyes steady beneath the brim. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said, his voice low and calm, carrying across the wind like a promise. I almost didn't, she whispered, her throat dry. You don't know what you're asking for. He took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. I think I do. She looked away, her hands trembling as she gripped the fence. No, you don't. You think you're saving me, but you're not. I've made mistakes, ones I can't take back. People like me don't get to start over. Silence stretched between them, heavy and aching. Then, his voice came again, soft but unyielding. You think I care what people say? You think I don't see you for who you are? She shook her head, fighting the sting in her eyes. You'll regret choosing me. He smiled then, slow, deep, and warm enough to thaw the coldest heart. I already regret waiting this long. The words struck her harder than any confession could. Something inside her cracked open. A dam she'd built from pain and shame and loneliness. Tears gathered, not of sorrow, but of something she hadn't felt in years, hope. He reached out, his calloused hand brushing hers, grounding her in the moment. You don't have to be perfect, he said quietly. You just have to stop running. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that maybe, just maybe, she could stand still long enough for someone to hold her without judgment. But fear still gripped her heart like barbed wire. You don't understand, she whispered. Everywhere I go, the past follows me. It ruins things. It ruins people. His thumb traced the edge of her knuckles. Then let it come. I'm not scared of your past. I've got my own ghosts. She met his eyes then, deep, steady, and filled with something she hadn't seen in years, quiet certainty. He wasn't a man who promised the world. He was a man who kept his word when he gave it. And right now, his silence was saying everything her heart longed to hear. The sky deepened to violet, stars slowly waking above them. The ranch lights flickered on in the distance. A reminder that life didn't stop for broken hearts, it went on, waiting for those brave enough to catch up. She took a slow breath and said, You don't even know what you're asking for. He tilted his head. I'm asking for truth. I can live with that. A soft laugh escaped her, half disbelief, half surrender. You make it sound easy. He shook his head. It won't be easy. But it'll be real. And that's all that matters. The moment stretched, fragile as glass. Before she whispered again, her voice barely audible. You'll regret choosing me. He stepped closer until the space between them vanished. The wind died down. And his words came out like a vow, maybe. But I'll never regret loving you. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The emotion rose too fast. Too fierce, and all she could do was let the tears fall silently as he pulled her gently into his arms. For the first time in years, she didn't resist. The world felt still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for them. As the night settled over the ranch, the past didn't seem so heavy. And the future didn't seem so far. Maybe love wasn't about perfection or promises, it was about two wounded souls choosing to heal together, no matter how many scars they carried. And as they stood there beneath the endless sky, his voice broke the quiet once more. Tomorrow, we'll face it all. But tonight, just let me hold you. She nodded, her heart finally surrendering to the truth she'd run from for so long. Sometimes love didn't come softly, it came like a storm, fierce, relentless. And impossible to ignore. The morning sun crept over the hills, painting the ranch in gold. She woke before dawn, the scent of coffee drifting from the porch. He was already outside, leaning against the rail, hat low, watching the cattle move like shadows across the field. For a moment, she just watched him, how peace seemed to follow him even in silence. When he turned, their eyes met. And she looked away quickly, still unsure how to exist in a world where someone cared. He handed her a mug. Sleep any? A little, she said, her voice soft. Didn't think I'd stay. I did, he replied simply. The warmth in his tone made her chest tighten. He wasn't asking for promises, only presence. But fear still lingered. What if her past found her again? What if this fragile piece shattered like everything else she'd touched? Sensing her silence, he said, "You can leave if you need to. But I'll still be here." Something in those words settled her heart. Maybe home wasn't a place, it was a person brave enough to wait. As she looked at him, the weight she'd carried began to fade, piece by piece. For the first time in years, she smiled without hiding. And somewhere between that smile and the sunrise, she realized she didn't regret staying. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks, and peace began to feel almost natural. She helped around the ranch, feeding horses, fixing fences, learning the rhythm of quiet mornings. Each evening, he'd find her by the fence, watching the sunset just like the night they met. Words weren't always needed. Their silence said enough. One afternoon, a stranger rode up, asking questions about her past. Fear surged, old memories clawing their way back. But before she could speak, he stepped forward, calm and firm. "She's with me," he said. "Whatever you're looking for, it ends here." The stranger left, and she trembled, guilt flooding her eyes. "You shouldn't have to fight my battles." He smiled softly. "Then let's fight them together." That night, as the stars blinked awake, she whispered, "You were right. I was worth waiting for." He touched her cheek gently. "And I'll keep waiting, every day."